then we'll dig into this.
We could save time by not introducing ourselves.
Let's go around the table. Why don't we mix it up a little bit? Josie, why don't you introduce Dave and then.
We should have to go around and say all of our tags.
Yes.
I don't even know all your names.
America and indeed the world are joining us. So, Henry, let's hear what you have to say.
All right. Yeah, H550. So this is my kind of re-looking at, we talked about H74 last year, which was my grand scheme to get agriculture and nutrition into education more broadly. I felt like, I think we all felt like it was kind of going to be a hard sell or heavy lift to try to do the top-down approach and implement that, because schools are already pretty overwhelmed. So I just went to Mike O'Grady and said, hey, I've got interest from people in the worlds that I've been involved with the education stuff, like that want to do more local foods in schools, nutrition programs, cooking classes, tech programs around ag, and so on and so forth. Is that there's the interest. We heard testimony last year from people that are like super passionate about it, good at it. And the holdup seems to be funding. And so how can we take a different approach and get the same thing maybe, and encourage this sort of ag in schools and nutrition and food and kind of close the circle, if you will. And he's the one that kind of was like, well, we could look at, programs that are already existing and expand on those. And that brought us to the local foods grant program, which is the funding mechanism behind farm to school. And so this bill is basically at this point just adding language into existing program that would allow for things like education. Like, so the hope is that teachers, because before teachers couldn't apply, but like if there was a teacher, like some of the teachers we heard from, or new teachers that maybe have a small role in nutrition or ag at their school, but have a broader idea for how to incorporate, a local farm, bringing food in and cooking it. And a teacher would actually be able to apply for a grant, and like things like curriculum would be grant worthy. Like instead of like, it broadens the framework around what is eligible for the grant funds. So basically my thought was, if we could get some of these teachers that are doing a good job or that are excited about it, that have background in ag education or nutrition education or cooking, if we can get them to apply for a grant and then have them build curriculum that works and the kids are excited about and incorporates local farms, then hopefully if that curriculum is available, we take some of the work out of it and some of the burden out of implementing it in other schools, like basically kind of prove it, like say, oh, this works, kids like it, it's doing all these things. And now maybe it's a template that we can pass around and other places can hire on that aspect of like, this is what we need for a teacher, this is what we need for infrastructure, so on and so forth. So this is just a different approach. One thing I do want to say is, and I bringing this loosely in hopes that it'll kind of foster the conversation and we can design it however we best see fit. But I want to be very clear and very sure that we don't hurt or hinder or pull any of the funding that's already doing good things. Like we've heard so much about, especially the farm to school program, how great it is, and there's limited funds. So obviously the dream world is, in the more viable and, good this program is, if we can expand it to do more things, maybe we can make the argument to get more funding and make the program bigger and incorporate all these other things and in at the same time helping local farms and schools and everything. But I just want to be clear that like, I think we need to be very careful approaching this, that we're not, robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you will, and like taking away from something that's, our last thing we want to do is screw up a program that's actually working. So that's the gist of it. I think Mike or somebody from the agency, is going to be able to explain much more of like the existing mechanics of the funding and how those tweaks would affect it. And, and then it's kind of up to us. Like I had him loosely put in what I was thinking about the changes of teachers and education and cooking equipment. Because one of the ideas I heard was like taking, trying to really incorporate a bunch of things, like getting the tech program to build a food trailer, and then having the business program at the school create a business model around selling food at sporting events, and then have the cooking teacher create a menu where, kids cook the food and like kind of do the whole full circle. And like, so part of it is to have like a cooking equipment or cooking wares might need to be in some of the granting things and I've got people that are interested in doing this sort of stuff that would love to testify. And like I said, I think it would be good to have Mike or somebody from the agency just talk about kind of how this would all work and make sure that we have people from the farm to school program come in and also be in the conversation so that we're not messing up those things.
Great. We had, I think last year we got sort of an overview of the grant program and how it was used, but it'd be good to have a refresher on that.
Yeah.
So, and we'll have Mike go through the language, and then he can share whatever else he knows about it, and then we have the agency and then some other folks that might be helpful. Good. Questions?
I just want to say it sounds like a really good bypass, kind of like a workaround that seems to be, I wonder who's going to have a complaint about this one, right?
Yeah. I just felt like this is more like maybe more the since this analogy is getting used a lot, the carrot or the stick. Like this is more, the carrot approach. Like if there's already something working, let's foster that and make it work other places instead of saying, hey, you have to do X amount of education for agriculture. Maybe this is the better way to do it, or the more possible way to do it.
Yeah, I admit, I don't know that no one will have objections to it.
Yeah.
But I think we were given some advice last year, frankly, that this would be a better way to go. So, Representative Cole.
Well, I'm thinking about my community, and we have a tech center, which is awesome. And we have a culinary program, but we do not have an ag program, like the production side of things. And it would be so very cool to bolster those kinds of programs. And Rep. Templeman and I were just speaking to another rep who knows that her district's ag technical program is really struggling. And
Just plug in.
yeah, so that in particular is an area I think that would really benefit Vermonters in getting, youngsters into this field and passionate about it. So we could focus on the ag tech. That would be cool.
Representative Rice?
Yeah, and
Boris.
that just brought to mind a question which I don't know if anybody in the room knows the answer to, which is, does anybody know how many CTE level ag programs remain in Vermont? Because I know Bennington's ceased to exist, sounds like.
I don't know.
So that'd be an interesting, I think that would be an interesting sort of piece of this conversation, is sort of like what has happened over the last however many years to ag education in the technical education centers, and how could things like this, what what would they be looking for to try to, yeah, I visited the center in Bennington not too long ago, and they have like they're really excited about their culinary program, and there's a lot of really exciting things happening, and yet there's no sort of ag program, there's no, and I was just sort of speaking anecdotally there to folks I was talking to about sort of like, wouldn't it be, I mean, literally the culinary program there actually exists in what used to be the part of like an indoor greenhouse building where they would, so I was like, maybe you could even just start by like growing herbs in that kitchen that has a lot of windows. Like, you know,
True.
fostering some kind of excitement about the connection between growing and preparing food.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I just wanted that I would be interested in having, if we're taking this bill out for further conversation, is just, I think what your point about sort of using this to build curriculum and make things more widely available to try to get over the hump of that problem that we talk about, where like we meet somebody who's really great and their program at their school is really great, but it's so personnel based.
Right.
I would just like to see that sort of more thoroughly fleshed out in the bill. Like, how do we actually generate that content bank and make that available so that we're sort of really using, like, hopefully using these dollars even more effectively and efficiently to spread this kind of education to, you know, communities throughout the state.
Yeah.
I think Representative O'Brien. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds, Henry, like just some due diligence would really help. Maybe I think figure out where to go with this, like the farm to school, like, you know, we've all voted for it and we all approve of it, but I don't really know what their parameters are as far as how much can you do with curriculum with that, or are teachers really not allowed to?
Right. Yeah, the way it is, the way I read it now is that it's, you know, it's a school district or consortium of schools, but like that can apply for these grants, but a teacher, and it's not for education, it's for like more for, like, but it's funny, there's like, you know, it says you can fund items or or food products, gardening supplies, field trips to farms, you know, but we added in cooking equipment and kitchenwares, like, because, you know, there's some places, especially like if there isn't, like, for instance, in Danville, there's a new teacher that's very passionate, has great experience, knowledge, like, but Danville has, like, it's been years since we've had an ag program, and the home ec, you know, kitchen and stuff is like barely functioning. And so you've got all this passion and knowledge and kids that want to do it, but there just isn't the resources, and she can't work for free on all. I mean, she does on some of these things, but it's like, how do we make that and set things up so it's kind of more turnkey for the next place, so much work isn't having to be put into building, you know, standing up the program or whatever.
It reminds me of, like, you know, where is funding coming from for like junior Iron Chef, which like our boys did, you know, as middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And I think it's in a lot of schools, but it's not coordinated in a ag or a food curriculum. It's sort of drop in, you know, kids really love it and then it goes away.
And I was even talking to Carrie Staler the other day about like implementing, you know, like just this whole, I guess, and it's like a philosophy, I guess, but, you know, like the connections piece, like the more connections you can make, especially in small communities, like with the hunger, like if kids are cooking, you know, if they're getting, if somebody's locally is growing the food, or the students are growing the food, and then they're cooking it in the class, and then, you know, then it's going to a program to help people that support a program like Hungry Free Vermont. You know, it's feeding people. Like, the more connections you can make, you're not only getting the benefit of the actual action, you're getting the education behind it of like, in community involvement and the value and where your food goes and how important it is to support local farms and nutrition and you get all those things. And it just seems like the more we can start that at a young age and get it involved in school, we might pique kids' interest into, like, because my big thing with agriculture and with food, my biggest complaint is that the disconnect, just, it feels like everybody's so disconnected from food, and food touches everything. It touches everyone. It is everywhere. And so that disconnect seems like a real problem, because then you're losing all those other connections. And so the more we can connect people through food, we may be helping educate kids about a lot of other things, through food is the grand idea here. But just trying to foster or create that at an early age in school seems like a good idea to me.
Representative Cole.
I'll just add to, talk about this a little bit in the last session, Henry, that there is a database on the Farm to School website of curriculum help, like a toolkit and resources that teachers can access. I don't know how widely teachers do access it, or, how helpful it is to people, but, I don't know if we want more of a centralized database that's outside of Farm School, or if we just want to help them, have more resources, or to just spread the word that these resources do exist, to support, teachers who are interested. But it goes back to show, or to question, whether our intent is to, help with curriculum, or help with infrastructure of building programs or sustaining programs that are ag tech programs, or is it a combination of the two? And so refining that goal a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I can send you the link to this. There's some really cute lessons on this page.
I mean, if it hasn't already been said, I think curriculum specific would be great, but then we fall back into the problem with conversation we had about the last bill, right? Where they don't want to be told what to teach. So it's kind of, there must be a kind of a middle ground we can achieve where you put some parameters in there, but maybe not too many.
Well, just to bounce off of that, it's offering resources so they can take it or leave it, you know what I mean? And so just making sure, maybe from our end, not requiring things, but, making sure that if you want to access them, you can, for help.
Yeah, rather than, as you described it, a top-down requirement that would be difficult to pass through, certainly not in the course of a 2-year biennium.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people that are, able and knowledgeable in this can create curriculum that also does multiple, because I think the problem with, adding another program is that there's not, we all know there's not hardly enough space in the school day, and there's not time and resources. But if we can check some of those other boxes, math and science with food, then maybe we don't have to necessarily add something. We just are changing the way that it's taught, with a more holistic approach, if you will. Even some of the teachers I talk to, they're talking about doing fractions and stuff for measuring and liquid measures and the science of acidity and, all these things. And if we can, and I don't know how that all works as far as the, what you're allowed to qualify for certain credits and stuff like that in at the high school level or wherever. But if they could build curriculum that kind of got to a bunch of other things too, while getting these important things about ag and nutrition back into the education process, seems beneficial.
Seems like a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, take a look at the bill when you have a chance. I don't think we're going to get to the next step in the process tomorrow, but we will soon. And it sounds like there's interest anyway, and so we'll keep going with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You didn't introduce.